Thank you, Madam Assistant Speaker. I'd like to thank Ms Lakuta for bringing this very interesting topic today. I think it does demonstrate the juxtaposition between the matters that we've talked about today, such as a crisis in our health service, as opposed to the topic we're discussing today in the MPI. We don't have a large formal or commercial honey industry as such in the ACT, but we do have a number of amateur beekeepers here in Canberra, and with so many enthusiastic gardeners and bushland, is it any wonder that it's a popular hobby? We do have the ACT Beekeepers Association, and if you visit the Jerrabomberra wetlands, for example, you'll see that they have a number of hives there which enable their resident bees to access the wide variety of vegetation and plants there at Jerrabomberra wetlands. You'll see that in other areas in our suburban and urban landscape as well. There are hotels and businesses that are installing hives on top of their businesses, and it's another way to ensure the ongoing viability of that amateur and not so amateur beekeeping here in the ACT. Hives in the ACT do have to be registered through the Transport and City Services Directorate, and anyone selling honey also has to be registered. And while beekeeping may only be small in the ACT, in other parts of Australia the bee industry makes a significant contribution to the economy. The Australian honeybee industry has over 12,000 producers with over 500,000 hives in most states of Australia, and they produce between 20,000 and 30,000 tonnes of honey annually, which makes Australia one of the top 10 honey-producing countries in the world. A lot of the honey that we produce here is exported to a variety of countries in both bulk and retail shipments. Australia is the fourth largest exporter of honey in the world after China, Argentina and Mexico. I guess that's a good Trivial Pursuit question for you. Australian honey varieties are recognised for their high quality and unique flavours, including varieties such as a variety of eucalypt nectars, yellow box, grey box, river, red gum, stringy bark and red box. In Tasmania, leatherwood honey is also a unique and popular flavour, and of course many people will have heard of Manuka or Manuka honey, depending how you choose to pronounce it. Australian honey can be found throughout the world: Europe, Asia, North America, Middle East, Argentina, and at least one of our Australian honey producers, Capilano, has operations in several overseas countries. But the Australian bee industry is not only about honey, Madam Assistant Speaker. Other honeybee products include beeswax production, queen bees, packaged bee sales, pollen and paid pollination services. The industry has an overall gross estimated value of production of $90 million a year. Pollination is a particularly important activity for the bee industry, and one that's becoming even more important for many producers than honey production. Of course, as we've heard already from Ms Lakuta, without the activities of bees, many horticultural crops would simply not happen. In fact, the little honeybee is the most important insect pollinator of cultivated agricultural and horticultural crops worldwide. So the saying, busy as bees, is most accurate. With the Australian production of almonds and blueberries particularly on the increase, paid pollination services are becoming a significant financial stream of an apiarist's business plan. We're also lucky, or perhaps privileged, that as an island continent we do have a particularly active biosecurity network, so that bee diseases common in other countries are not present here. Beekeepers are always on the watch for a number of diseases: American foul brood, European foul brood, sack brood, as well as a number of predators, birds like currawongs and bee-eaters, and insects like redback spiders. I don't actually like currawongs or redback spiders either, but that doesn't mean I don't like bees. The varroa mite is one that could wipe out our bee industry and put at risk our export markets. It has serious impacts in other countries, and Australian beekeepers certainly don't want it here. The varroa mite has spread to and become a major pest of honeybees in the US since their introduction into Florida in the mid-1980s. We don't have it here, and we certainly don't want it. According to beekeepers, recent increases in honey imports from countries including China are potential carriers of disease, including varroa mite. We must put our faith in our border protection services to monitor such things. But also at the local level, we can play our part by buying locally produced honey, supporting local amateur beekeepers and honey producers, and for those who have gardens, make sure they grow plants that encourage bees so they can keep busy collecting nectar and pollinating local crops like blueberries and fruit trees. As we've already heard, the 20th of May marks World Bee Day, which is recognised by a UN resolution. Ms Lakuta has indicated there'll be a number of activities around the ACT. It is a good time to acknowledge the importance of bees and other pollinators, and at the very least, we should be eating honey on that day. We have a number of native bees in Australia. Most of them, or a number of them, produce honey, and a number of them do not sting. But not many of them are indigenous to the ACT because it's apparently too cold for them. But it would have been nice if we had local bees here that didn't have stings. There are a number of people who are very, very allergic to bee stings, and it's one of the reasons why, for example, you can't have a hive in your own garden, or you're discouraged from having a hive in your own garden if someone in your family or your neighbours is allergic to bee stings. I'd just like to finish by acknowledging a number of people I know who keep bees in their own backyard, and some of my family and friends. Apart from the fact that they're maintaining a wonderful local industry, that they're protecting an important part of our ecosystem through the pollination benefits, it's also a fabulous personal benefit for me in that I get jars of honey from them. So I encourage them to keep up the good work.
On the matter of public importance, Mr Steele.